Yeah, just y'all let me know when y'all are
There.
all tech savvied up.
Yeah, I'm set.
All right, good. Good.
hmm
All right. Everybody else good? Lactoid?
No,
Good.
not good, Gibbs. I'm great.
That's good.
Who's donating to me so they can buy my vote?
Is that how this is going?
You know, hey, listen, the judges determine how they give out their votes however they choose. Bribery might be a thing.
Can I
Bribery's
donate for
great.
I like
Lactoid?
I think everybody here is open
Go
to be
get over the
bribed.
championship, brother.
Unfortunately, only one lawyer here probably has the money to afford to do that.
Ouch.
Not
I'll be right
me.
back.
I always get confused between Lactoid and Pentuple. Pentuple is next to me, right?
They look so much alike,
Missouri.
actually. You know?
It's not that they look alike, it's that they both came into my world at the same time, and I always confuse them.
Yeah, they're like mid white boy lawyers, I see. And they all
Hey.
combine the same.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, though. Nothing wrong with that. That's where you want to be.
Mm-mm-mm.
Where do you
Stay
want to
there.
be?
I'm in a good spot.
I want to be at Cozumel right now.
I want to be in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Real.
Maybe Belize. I'd be okay with Belize, dude.
Some
You
of
know
my
where I
bar
don't want to
regulars
be?
are going there. Where?
I don't want to be in Chicago.
Yeah, it's a bad place to be.
Chirac.
Surely. Yes.
Can't tell the difference between there and Iran right now. Ironically, it's probably safer in Iran.
Oh, what
Probably
makes you
not.
say that?
Probably not.
You've been to Chicago?
Yes.
There's about one city worse. St. Louis.
Oh yeah, St. Louis is.
It's
That's
tough. It's tough out there, boys.
it's
Is it really?
very rough.
Yeah, it's like the murder capital of the United States. Or it was.
Missouri's so pretty though.
Missouri's
Well, at
pretty.
least you
I
have something to look at
there.
when you're dying.
Well, I mean, like I
All
went
right.
out there for my best friend's wedding. But...
Let's keep this shindig off. And then we can talk about Missouri later. All right. It's the playoffs. Welcome to the DCS. It's the Debate Championship Series semifinals. We have two lawyers here to talk about all the important issues. I think the topic is scroll. Something about morally wrong, not to give a shit. Let me find it exactly.
Nailed it.
Yeah. It is not a bad prompt. Okay. Is it morally wrong for a person living today to be largely indifferent to or not care about major current world conflicts? Thanks to the Raging Tomato for this wonderful topic for our lawyers, since our lawyers couldn't agree on anything.
Can you say the
Fundamental.
prompt one more time?
We didn't disagree
Yeah.
on anything either, though.
It is morally wrong, parentheses, not bad, in parentheses, for a person living today to be largely indifferent to or not care about major current world conflicts. And so we have two wonderful lawyers who are going to debate the metaphysical, and we're gonna get into it. Who is taking the affirmative on this one?
I think technically I'm taking the positive position.
All right, good. Then you get to go first. You have 7-minute openings, as always, and then we'll go to the periods. I shut y'all up. It's for a reason. Other than that, any questions from the board?
One quick, I guess, comment. I did not time my opening, so if I go over, just stop me.
Yeah. This is 1 minute time. This is
Can I
30
agree
seconds.
to allow him to go over? I'm fine with that.
No, you can't agree to fucking shit.
Wait,
There's a reason why it's all organized a certain way.
Admiral Gibbs.
Yeah,
God.
we're doing it. I already had this problem last week.
So gracious.
We're not doing it again. We're not doing it already again. So go ahead whenever you're ready. Kickstarter, Heart, Lactoid, or whatever that good you have.
All right. Is it morally bad for a person living today to be largely indifferent and not care about major world conflicts? I will be arguing today that it is indeed bad to not care about major world conflicts. I am not arguing for either interventionism or isolationism here. I'm specifically arguing that we should care, as sometimes different situations call for different actions. I will argue that not caring about major world conflicts is both ethically bad by any major school of philosophical thought, and it is also bad from a purely self-interested position as well. One, From a utilitarian position, not caring about major world conflicts allows preventable harm to persist. If we categorically do not care about major world conflicts, we carry the risk of contributing to bad outcomes without providing the positive utility of opposing said bad outcomes, thus failing to minimize the harm done. We carry the risk of contributing needlessly to bad actions, which, from a utilitarian perspective, is bad. 2, from a deontological perspective, there rests a duty to respect human dignity even outside of our borders, as human beings are ends in of themselves. If human beings are ends in of themselves, why would it be acceptable to be indifferent to their suffering just because they happen to be far away? Or just because they aren't you? After all, fellow Americans are killed in major world conflicts. Why is this not important? Especially if you may be contributing to it. 3, from a virtue ethics position, callousness is a negative virtue that erodes one's own moral character and normalizes callousness towards suffering of society at large. And 4, there is no religious ethical position I can think of that finds it acceptable to callously disregard the suffering of other souls just because they aren't you. Leaving all of that aside, if we want to ignore any kind of ethical position and we want to behave truly as a pure egoist, a purely self-interested actor, a crocodile or iguana, then it is still bad to not care about major world conflicts because they affect you in countless ways. Global trade affects you. Gas prices affect you. Potential escalation of the war to your doorstep will affect you. Electing politicians that may allow any of these things to affect you will affect you. Environmental destruction associated with war will affect you. The money that is taken from us in taxes to pay for $3 million tomahawks, that affects you. What about American lives lost overseas? What if they happen to be related to you? Should we just not care? Major conflicts are also a breeding ground for the worst atrocities that man has ever witnessed. Imagine if we applied my opponent's philosophy in the 20th century. Should we just not care about the Rwandan genocide, the Holocaust, the Congo, or maybe more recent situations like the Ukrainian war and the Iranian war, both of which America has been involved in? Isn't it our duty as Americans to care what we are contributing to, or what people around the world we are affecting, or what people in America we are affecting? Are these people truly not important at all just because they aren't us? I disagree. We cannot approach the world with a reptile's brain. Sometimes there are situations that call for intervention, and sometimes there are interventions that never should have happened. Either option has major consequences on everybody, including you and including me. And the duty on us is to care about major conflicts to know what we should do. Thank you.
I don't know why you're worried about going over 7 minutes. You hit 3 minutes.
Oh, based. All right.
Oh, he said he didn't
Yeah,
time
so
it, so he
very
didn't
nice. Also, one
know.
other little
You're
point
just
of
giving us all
interest.
shit tonight.
Yeah, one point of interest. Both these guys are undefeated, so somebody's getting a loss tonight. Lactoid won a Grand Prix, so no pressure, Pentuple, with all that hype you were saying in the beginning. But your
I
time
already get a
is starting
trophy,
now.
so I'm
Yeah,
happy
he gets a
that way.
trophy.
I got called reptile brained. All right. So we're here tonight to talk about whether it's a moral or ethical requirement to care about global politics. The common virtue signal is to say that if you aren't terminally online and tracking every headline, you're somehow failing as a citizen. But I want to argue the opposite. That focusing on what is happening right in front of your face, your own life, your family, and your immediate surroundings is actually the higher moral calling. The first thing we have to acknowledge is that not everybody is wired to be on top of politics. It's a reality that some people aren't intellectually inclined to parse through every policy shift, and for others, trying to do so causes extreme stress and anxiety. If someone is struggling to keep their personal life together and they're adding the weight of the world on top of that, they aren't helping. They're actually making it worse because their own life is falling apart. Even if they think they're having a positive impact socially, a person whose life is in shambles is a net negative to their community. We also have to look at how our American government was designed. It was never intended for the average citizen to keep up and micromanage every decision. That's why we have representatives. We put people in charge that we trust so that we don't have to do that labor ourselves. We outsource that responsibility so we can focus on being productive members of society in our own fields. These representatives have more information than we do, have classified information, and while some might lie and corrupt their office, that's not inherent in the design. And honestly, what is the actual purpose of keeping up with every global detail? At this point, is it just so we can place bets on Polymarket? Realistically, there's nothing most of us are going to do with this information. In fact, because global affairs are so complex, the majority of people are operating on partial information at best. When you're too into politics without the full knowledge, you're more likely to misinform others than help them. It might actually be more unethical to spread half-baked opinions than to simply say you're focusing on your own life. There is research that shows we're all wired differently. Some people care more about the universe at large, and others care about the hierarchy of the family, and then their friends, and then the state. I think it's obvious that global affairs should come second to what's happening in front of your face. So the people who are too stressed, too busy, or not wired for this certainly don't have an ethical obligation. But I'll take it a step further. Even for the person who is capable and has their life put together, there is still no moral requirement to follow global affairs. Being interested in politics can be a good thing, but being terminally political doesn't always yield positive results. I think the best way to help the world is to help yourself first. And also added, I didn't write it in there, but in the age of AI, it's hard to trust anything online. So like some people are genuinely believing things that are straight up true. Like whether it's us or whether it's them or whoever it is, there are people out there that just believe complete nonsense. And they're trying their best to keep up with politics, but they're falling for, you know, fake AI stuff and whatnot. So I'll just leave it there.
Thank God that we're not gonna have Fabian Liberty style debate tonight. Last one was like 2 hours long. This one seems like it's gonna be about half that. Big fan of that. All right, it's an open. Go ahead, fight y'all two.
All right. I want to respond to a few things. The first, I guess, the first topic, and I'll just bullet point these, and if you take issue with my responses, you can just stop me, and we can go into each one of these particular responses. So we're saying, oh, we elect representatives, and they handle that for us. I don't think
Right.
just because we elect representatives that absolves our responsibilities as a citizen to understand who we are electing. After all, our representatives do reflect us.
Of course.
I mean, if we didn't care at all, let's say about, I don't know, any kind of, you know, ethical evil or any kind of wrong, then you would agree that there's perhaps a higher chance that we might elect a politician who allows that evil to happen, or maybe even supports that evil.
Yeah. So when I was, you know, brainstorming all these arguments, I think, of course, like it's hard for us to draw the line between us because it's like, does voting for like local politics and being involved in like your representative count as like global, you know, the more distant politics? But I think we've identified that like we're talking about sort of outside your scope. Like, do you have a duty to care about things outside your scope? But the thing with the representatives, like, are there times that you agree? Do you agree that there are times where a representative will cast a vote in a way that the constituents may all genuinely disagree, but that representative has more information than them, and that flips the way they should work? So at some point, you do put faith in your representative because they have more information than you. So all I'm arguing is like, it is important to decide who that representative is. But when we're talking about like caring about global politics and stuff, it's like micromanaging the decisions of the people that you put in those positions. I'm not saying we shouldn't keep track. I'm not saying you shouldn't like, you know, see what they're doing, but we're talking about like sort of micromanaging and being like really on top of it. It's not necessarily like serving any purpose for a person to be super in touch. It's kind of like,
hold on.
Like it's in some sense it's like memorizing all the players on a football team.
Let's be clear. No, I'm not.
Things happen and then
that's not what
they
I'm
don't
asking
happen.
for. No, that's not at all what I'm asking for. I totally understand that sometimes you're going to be putting people in charge that are going to learn facts that we simply don't know, or, you know, perhaps have interests that we don't know about. That also might be a factor going on, and that they're going to make decisions that happen to be against their constituency. But if we're going to have a democracy at all, the whole point is that representatives are supposed to be reflective and answer to their communities to some extent. Yes, we have representatives that are given leeway in terms of difficult decisions. When I'm talking about caring about geopolitics, or specifically in this case, major world conflicts, I'm not talking about micromanaging the president's each and every move when it comes to handling these conflicts. What I'm saying is that we should care. We should at least give a shit if we see a president do something really bad, or any kind of world leader do something really bad, and we have the potential, because again, they answer to us, and we have the potential to hold them accountable for that. I mean, surely we should at least factor that in, right? Like, let's say tomorrow we found out that like, you know, let's say Biden was still president, because maybe that'll get you to agree with me here. Let's say Biden was still president, and then we found out that like Biden launched some kind of like genocidal campaign in India or something and killed like 3 million people.
Chicago.
Yeah, nuked New Delhi or something. Like, to me, I would want some kind of answer as to why. I'd be like, hey, man, what's this all about? And if he's like, you know, blah, 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 you know, walking around like a Roomba, that's not going to be acceptable, and we should hold him accountable for that.
Right. Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think that we are talking about, like, are we talking about being informed of things that happen? Are we talking about being vocal? Do we have an ethical obligation to be vocal about these global politics? Because I can understand saying, like, you shouldn't shy away from it. You should see what's happening and see what comes across. But I just can't get over the idea that, like, everyone online disagrees with each other. People often say, like, oh, well, there's nobody that would be exactly like me as president. It's like we basically had a choice. And I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, one of my friends has been sending me all this anti-Trump stuff, and I was just like, dude, at what point do you think I'm going to be like, you're right, we should have put in Kamala? Like, this is what it is. Like, this is the president, and at some point, I have to just know that I don't have all of the information, and I hope things work out, and maybe they won't. But being like a contributing member of society is much more dependent upon me taking care of my personal life and contributing to, like, the people around me. And, like, even those people that can do that, I don't even think they have an obligation to necessarily, like, get into all this. Because when you're saying we have an obligation to do something about these global politics, what does that mean? Like, does that mean, like, tweeting? Or does that mean, like, voting? Or does that mean, like, actually getting involved in politics and running for a seat and running for an office? Like, there's obviously a spectrum of involvement.
There is, and by caring, there's a fair question. What do we mean here by caring? And I suppose what I mean by caring is in the sense that any citizen has a duty to politics, which is that you have a duty to operate within your bandwidth. And I would agree with you that if we're pushing people to exceed their bandwidth and exceed what they're capable of doing, to exceed their capacity, that it could lead to potentially negative results. I'm not asking that everybody maximally care and dedicate their entire lives to the pet issues that I really care about. Okay. Yes, there's some very specific geopolitical issues, geopolitical world conflicts that I tend to care about, but there's also other ones that I'm a little bit less educated in and other people, know more about. But my understanding of this prompt is that you're arguing categorically against the idea of caring about major world conflicts. That even if somebody has the bandwidth to, I think you even said it, even if somebody has the bandwidth to care about these very consequential actions, that they just shouldn't give a shit. That they should just kind of have this sort of callous action. And my question for you is why, if somebody has the bandwidth to read a couple articles, to like, oh hey, maybe we shouldn't support this, maybe we should support that, I'm going to factor that in when it comes to the next election cycle or whatever. Why is that not a duty as a citizen?
I think it's not a duty. I think it is a good thing, and we should reward and celebrate people that do that. I think there is a virtue to being involved in politics, but it's not a duty. It's not something that people should be expected to do. That's something that people should be drawn to with their interests. Oh man, I forgot what I was going to say. It was something what you were saying right before that.
If you're saying it's a good thing to care about geopolitics, then are you saying it'd be a not? Then are you saying it would be a not good thing? Are you saying it would be a not good thing to not care about geopolitics?
Why should I ever care about some given conflict over on the other side of the planet? And like you said, there's some global conflicts that you care more about than others, right? Everyone's going to have things that they care about more than others. But so, like, my what I'm saying is, like, it's not a bad thing that people care about global conflicts, especially if they're connected to them in some way or something like that. But, like, there are conflicts out there that are very important to people, like the Israel-Palestine. There's some people in America that, like, why should they care? I can't think of any reason that they should have to care. It's cool if they care. It's great if they care. Like, I understand if they're Jewish that they care. I understand if they're Arab Palestinian that they care. If they have some, like, friends or family or, like, some other reason to be, like, really, into that conflict and stuff. But it's like, ultimately, I think people should prioritize their community over they should move outward. And, like, when you start focusing on, like, the external elements, I think that's not a positive way to add to society for an individual.
I'm not making a claim, it is perfectly within the parameters of the prompt for somebody to care, on some level of a hierarchy of caring, perhaps, where they care more about things closer to them that affect their community than opposed to situations around the world. It's not necessarily entailed by this prompt. That I disagree with that. The question is, should you care?
Well, I am saying
should you care
we can
at all?
move it from to only.
Well, but this is I don't think I would defend that you should only care about world conflicts, but you seem to
No,
be
I'm saying I can defend
that
that
you
you
should
should only
you
care
should
about
only.
your local
It's
conflicts.
interesting though that you say that, because you've already sort of conceded that you think it's a good thing to care about geopolitics,
Yes.
and so if you're going to say,
Yes.
how can you say it is a good thing to care about this? And why should people care about this unless you have
I think
family
it's
over
a
there? Well, of course, the reason why you should care about this is for what you just said. It's good to care about this, right?
I think is if you told me you're running for office, I would say it's good that you're running for office. But I don't think it's inherently good that you're running for office. I think it's good that you're running for office because you care about the issues. You don't have an ethical duty to run for office for the things that you care about. But when you care about something and it drives you to run for office, that is a good thing. But that's not saying that running for office is the good thing. It's that you're doing something about something you care about. And that generally, like, if I'm voting for a representative, I'm hoping my representative thinks more like me, because I want them to say, okay, well, like, let me worry about your district. I don't want a congresswoman that's out there constantly talking about global conflicts. Like, I understand it'll come up, and I'm not saying like, oh, I want to be a total isolationist, but I do think the priorities should generally be inside out.
Well, so and this is
You
the thing
start
that
with yourself. Like, I take care of myself, then I take care of my family, and then I take care of my friends, and then I take care of the community.
no,
And then
I
it
understand,
extends out there.
but this is the problem I'm running into, which is you're again kind of going towards this. Well, there's a hierarchy here of I really care about my community, and yeah, it's good, and we should care about global conflicts too, because not only for their sake, because they're humans too, and of course we should care about that, but because global conflicts affect you and they affect your community, there's of course a localized reason to
Well,
care about geopolitics. But then
sure.
you'll sort of I think almost flip-flop a little bit to this other position, which is that you said you'd be able to defend, which is that you should only care about your local
Yes,
and
I could defend that.
right. And so I guess the first question is, if major world conflicts affect you locally, how can you care about your local community without caring about major world conflicts at all?
Well, some world conflicts affect us locally. This is where, and not to get like
Which
so
one
lawyerly
doesn't?
with it, but like, what is a global conflict? Could I argue that there's essentially like billions of global conflicts, or can we narrow it down to like, okay, Israel-Palestine's a global conflict, like maybe there's 15 we could identify.
Yeah, it says
Like,
major world conflict. I think Israel Palestine would
so how
probably
many
fit.
would you say there are? Just
Uh,
like estimating for the conversation.
Off the top of my head, if I had to estimate, 15 probably.
Okay,
I
because
could
like
be
that's a
wrong.
lower number that like maybe all 15 of those are affecting us, and I don't know if that just means because we send money there, if that's what it means, but
Do you like your
because
paycheck?
that's obviously like, I think we probably agree with a lot of that. But as far as like caring about global conflicts, I mean it's like,
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. Let me ask you a question since I'm
sure, go
moderating.
ahead.
How do you
It's like
determine
weird.
which global conflicts to care about? Because how many here care about the Great African War too, or Rwanda that's happening right now? Do y'all care about those?
Well,
I
like if we could
specifically
we
said
all
Congo and
together come up
Rwanda
with
for you,
15?
Gibbs.
I appreciate it. Yeah, but like I'm just curious how y'all determine which ones y'all care about and why we should care about those
Well,
over
Pentuple
others.
doesn't care about any of them, right? He can't,
Well,
otherwise he
yeah. So
ceased
I
the
guess not.
debate.
Like, how do you
Am I?
So really,
determine
the
that?
question
I'm
is
not
just to
saying I
me.
won't. I'm not saying I won't. I'm saying like compel me to. I don't feel like there's an ethical or moral duty for me to. Certainly, we can agree that you don't have a moral ethical duty to pretend to care, but like you're saying to actually like. This is also where it's like, what is caring? Is this being vocal, or is this just being informed? Like, is this being active, or is this just being
Yeah,
like
no, like I said,
aware?
it's within your bandwidth. It's some minimal amount of care, like of belief or action that is within your bandwidth. I'm not demanding that everybody
Right.
become activists tomorrow. But I'm saying is, just like the example you said, if somebody has the time, if they have the bandwidth, and they're able to digest this information, should they give a shit that there are children that are getting blown up? Should they care that their money is being taken from them and used for a particular purpose? Now, maybe that purpose is doing something that is bad, like blowing up children. Maybe it's doing something good, like stopping horrible regimes that are blowing up children, and a million things in between. But I want to make it very clear that this debate is not about I have this demand that every single American has to do everything that I say. Of course not. I'm saying that you should care. I'm saying that if you have the
Right.
capacity to care and have some kind of minimal level of like belief and action, then of course you should. I mean, I think that's
You should.
if you yeah.
That's
if you
why I
want,
say you can, and you say you should.
No,
yes,
but some
I'm making
respond, then we go to judges.
I'm making the affirmative case that you should, to the extent that you should care about human suffering at all. Like I said, if you want to just revert to, well, you can't prove any morality, I'm just a lizard, I only care about me, then I mean, then you sort of, I think, excluded yourself from the human experiment. What I'm talking about is, hey, human beings matter, and there's some base level a priori assumptions that we have to roll with that I think, honestly, me and you,
Right.
Pentuple, really agree with. And so
Right.
why doesn't this apply to American
So
servicemen and women?
here's
Why doesn't it
why.
apply to people around the world?
This
All right, go ahead and
is
respond, and we'll go
because
to judges.
this would be a different question if you and I had a button in our room, and if we pressed that button, it made a positive difference in the world. Would we have an ethical obligation to press that button? I would argue yes, I would be in your favor. The difference here is that the majority of people genuinely aren't in a position to do anything about it, much less have an actual clear image of what's happening overseas. Everyone disagrees because everyone has a different algorithm, everyone's seeing different content, everyone's seeing different stuff. The people who care are, ironically, some of them, a portion of them, whichever one's believing in these weird, AI driven narratives and stuff, and whatever comes in their algorithm. Like there's not all pros that come with being like this in tune with politics. But what I am saying is, like, if we could make a positive difference in our day-to-day lives, I would think we could care. But what I'm saying is, if you focus on the difference you make in your day-to-day life being your life and the more immediate things around you, like, you are going to be that's the best way to get in a position to help others. Like, it's like the old adage where, like, if you don't have your bed made at home, how are you supposed to help others?
No,
That's sort of like where the philosophy I feel like I'm defending.
Well, before you respond, Lactoid, let's go to the judges here for our first
Okay.
round of judges' questions. Yeah, because we all adhering to timetables for once, because y'all are much easier to get in on than they did. So let's start with the tomato. Any questions for our esteemed colleagues here?
She's muted.
You're
You're
muted.
muted.
The professional.
Sorry, I muted myself because I didn't want to interrupt or make noise. But I have a two-part question for both of you. Do you think that social media has created it's a way where everybody has accessibility to all of this information and everything that's going on in the world, versus like let's say the early 1900s when you found out what's going on in the world via newspaper or radio, possibly TV, right? You didn't have everything at your fingertips blowing up in your face. Do you think it's created accessibility so much to where you have no excuse to not be informed?
I would respond by saying I take issue with when you say we have access to everything and to all. I don't, and my issue with that comes from my understanding of the algorithms. I don't necessarily trust that I'm going to be able to find all of the same things when I go and search. Like, we could have identical queries on some platforms and we'll get totally different results. My trending tab will be filled with a story. I think it's the biggest thing ever, and you never saw it. You never heard of it. Like, in some ways, I get what you're arguing if the premise is that we actually have access to all of the information, but I think that we're all getting essentially like a kaleidoscope version of it where you can only see like a tiny sliver and then everything else is like just this internet nonsense or whatever, or you just can't see it. So I think that's the reason I have issue with it. If you had, although even with access to everything, I mean, that's such a enormous task that, like, how do you ever finish and complete like verifying any stance that you have or position? So like, in some ways I just feel like it's a distraction from what you can actually do, because if every single person in the world focused on their individual, I mean, obviously take away like the, not within these global conflicts we're talking about, but like generally speaking, like if everyone takes care of themselves, everyone's in a position to actually like make those changes. People would be, I mean, I'm just gonna end up ranting, but like, I think the best way to actually make these changes, if you care about these things, is going to be to take care of yourself and put yourself in a position to do it, because most people are not in a position to do anything, even if they want to. They're just, it's impossible. Like, what am I going to do about any of these global conflicts that we could list? I could do anything. If I could do anything for them, I don't know what it would be.
Lactoid?
Yeah. So I think there's like just I guess a little bit of a side comment. I think there's pretty negative effects of social media otherwise, but
Mhm.
one of the benefits I think is information. I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say no excuse. I can imagine people having some credible excuses, which is why I'm very specific that people should operate within their bandwidth. I can imagine people simply, perhaps simply not having the time or bandwidth to do the necessary research. There can be conflicting information. That being said, information is far more accessible now than it was, obviously, in the 1950 or 1930. And so I do think there's more of a responsibility on people to like. I think there's more bandwidth really for most people. And I think people should really reflect to see if they're truly operating within that bandwidth to do. I think they have a responsibility to do, which is again care about other people to the extent that they can. There is some disinformation, but that obviously I think people should care enough to try to decipher truth from disinformation. But even with that disinformation, like there's so much more information on top of that I think it's just a better information environment at least than it was in the 1950s. And then I guess I have a response to the last thing that Pentuple said, but it's not quite the answer to the question. So I'll respond to it later.
Uh, and the second part to that is, do you think that that overexposure, having all of this news and media outlets and information at the whims of your fingertips, do you think that that overexposure has either A, caused people to turn away from understanding geopolitics or even their local news because there's just an overabundance of what's going on? Or do you think it's caused people to tap into it more, or it's too stressful, so on and so forth?
I'll answer this one
That was it.
first. I think that overall, it's probably caused more people to tap into it. I think that people just know a lot more about geopolitical major world conflicts today than they do back in the 1950s or 60s, which there were plenty of major conflicts that people just had no idea about at all. Um, is there an overexposure problem? Sure. I do think this is a problem with the algorithmic ways that social media works and the ways that it is kind of exists to make money. And that's kind of a separate issue. But again, overall, I still think that it's led to more people knowing and more people caring.
Um, I mean, I just think a lot of it's at this point like entertainment news. A lot of people that are getting their news are getting it from the same platforms. They're getting it from a lot of the same sources, a lot of legacy media sources, and then that gets thrown around on social media and stuff. I just don't know that I trust anything I see online. Sorry if I've drifted a little bit away from your question, but
That's okay. That's okay. Um, do you think the overexposure is a benefit to those two because we can become a more informed uh,
I
country,
like it.
or is it deemed as a negative to where it is overexposure and that's what's caused people to deter away from getting into geopolitics and
I
what's
don't
going on?
I don't think it's bad. It's definitely deterred people from getting into politics. I think especially because it can get very emotional, and there's certainly propaganda around it, whether it's this side, that side, or whatever. So there's certainly like people are driven to make others stress about it as well, especially those in positions of power that maybe we need to get into. Um, but uh, man, I keep blanking out.
That's okay. That's if you want
The
to come back to it.
overexposure is, I like the overexposure. I like having access to the good and the bad on the internet, the right and the wrong. I like having it all out there rather than not having access to it. But this is where it comes down to like the duty and obligation versus like being a good. It's like a person becomes a doctor. That's good. We need doctors. That's a good thing. But they didn't have a duty or an obligation to do that. And maybe this isn't necessarily my favorite, but perhaps they did if they had the capability of becoming a doctor. Even then, if you have I'll stick with my argument. Even if you have the capability of becoming a doctor, you have the intelligence and whatever. Even then, I wouldn't say you have an obligation. You should be celebrated for doing something, not like expected to do it. And I think that in the same way, it's like you should care about what's happening globally if you can, but it's certainly not a duty. And I certainly wouldn't think that anyone is falling short of some sort of like civic obligation because they're not paying attention to what's happening on the other side of the globe. I would argue you're failing your civic obligation by not paying attention to your local community. Like, it's a whole bonus, and like that's like bonus politics to me. That's like fun, like exciting and interesting. We really have so little control over that. Like the local politics, that's where it's like if you have a civic duty to be argued, that's like your local offices, like the most local, and then like your county, and then like your district, and that moves out. That's where I would say your obligation as a civic like duty exists.
Let's go to our next judge here and ask them some questions. Hi, Anita, what you got?
I don't have any questions so far. It's just I feel
fine.
like we do have to care about people. So like that's a good argument.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it really seems like they're arguing
Nah,
should we
fuck
care
them.
about all people or like local people? It kind of seems like the crux of it here. On that note, let's go to Mel. What do you got? You have any questions, Mel?
My question was more like if you guys think that if caring at all, I know there was some clarification on like what caring is, but like if you care at all about something that's going on, does that mean that you cannot be indifferent to what's happening, like to these issues as well? I wanted to get y'all's opinions on that. Like because you can still care about something but not take any action or not really think about it on a daily
It's like
basis.
you can't do anything about it. Like there's probably some woman getting abused in my apartment complex right now.
And you
Like,
just
got
don't
her
care.
off, and I care about that. No, I
you care.
can say I care.
Well, that's good.
Like that's bad, and that's why I'm saying like when you say like kids dying and stuff, like that's bad. I don't like that. But it's like I'm saying this because it's like a statistical thing. There's someone in my county, let's say, that's getting abused right now. I care. There's literally nothing I can do about it because I don't even know where it's happening. Or
But you still care, though.
Like
what if I told you? Well,
yeah,
I can't.
And if I could do something about it, I would. But I certainly don't have
Pentuple. Wait, Pentuple. Hold on.
But the argument is, do you have the moral obligation to care?
Yeah. If I
have a moral obligation to care about
overall.
that, for sure.
I don't know. I mean, how many things do I have to care about? Every bad thing I have to care about.
Oh, Pentuple. If somebody
I also care about good things.
No,
just
Pentuple.
So you know.
Pentuple. If I came to you, if we were having a conversation, I was like, oh, by the way, like in my locality, there was like 18 women that were beat to hell and back just the other night. It was pretty wild. And then you're like, and then you look at me and you're just like, I don't care. Who cares?
No,
they're over there. They're not me.
No, the point is, I'm saying
they're not my women. Why should I care?
Anything about it?
Was one of them my mom? Why should I?
Anything about it?
No, but hold on.
Even if it's impossible to do anything about
it. Pentuple. But even if you can't, even if you caring is not just about like an affirmative action.
Well, does caring mean I think it's bad?
No. Hold on. Caring.
Well, hold on. What Lactoid? What if he hits you with the it's my moral duty not to care because it's none of my business?
Oh like God. I'm pro-life, right? And this is where I
think. Then I would think you're bad. Then I would think I would think you are an. If you think it's not your duty to not care about women getting beat up. Okay, and I understand the judges panel might be. I'm using this example maybe very specifically here. But if you think that
I might have pigeonholed myself.
Maybe you pigeonholed yourself a little bit. Yeah.
I care about women getting beat.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you do. But I think if somebody said like, oh, I just don't care about that, I think that would, or if they even said something worse, like what Gibbs just said, which is you have a duty to not care about that. I would think that's a little bit psychotic. I would think that's like bad. I would say this is not conducive to the healthy fabric of a functioning society.
If I came to you and said someone got murdered in my town and you're like, I don't care, I got to figure out how to pay my electric bill tonight, I would be like, yeah, that checks out. That's fine.
No, hold on. It's perfectly fine to say like within my bandwidth, I have to focus on getting my bills
but someone
paid.
died and you're worried about your electric bill?
No, hold on. But I still care. Like if I read an obituary, I'm like, oh, that sucks.
What does that mean?
If I sure, this is what I'm trying to explain, right? Like caring is.
We'll just go back to open.
Well, sure.
What I'm saying is, it just mean I say I care.
Does not necessarily entail a direct affirmative action. It can also entail having.
Doesn't it?
Like
though,
no, not. It can be an indication.
If you care about something, doesn't mean that you do something for it.
Pentuple, or you don't do something against it, right? Simply having simply having knowledge of, or a minimal level of your bandwidth that you have available to care about, any specific circumstance, that could lead to a situation of, man, I'm not going to do this thing because it's bad, right? Like, I don't like the CCP. I'm not a big fan of like communist dictatorships. Am I going over there to like subversively fight the CCP? That is not within my bandwidth. But I try to not support things affiliated with the CCP when I have the opportunity to, because I care at least some minimal degree. And all I'm asking from you is that you care, like, some minimal degree. I'm not, and the you is like the global you here. I'm asking every person.
Personally.
Yeah, I'm asking everybody to care, to not be so callous about it, to not say like, oh, I just don't care about that. It's like, no, when human beings are suffering, you should care about that. I'm not expecting the world. I feel like this is a very reasonable ask. And I mean, would you agree that it's a pretty psychopathic world to say like the terrible thing is happening there? Who cares?
No, that's how most people. I think most people are. Like, it's the people that are like online. I think we're in a category of people that tend to care more about these things. That's why we come online and talk about them. I mean, I would probably fall into the category of people that care more about it. There's plenty of people in my life that if I went up and started talking about some sort of foreign politics, they'd be like, shut the fuck up. And like, it's fine. That's cool. Like, they start talking about like UFC and I don't care. It's like, everyone.
Well, neither one of y'all presented this. Let me ask you this. Okay. So what happens, because everybody's got different morals here, right? Everybody's different morally. What if they care and they think that their morally good thing to do is the evil thing that you care about? So like, say, I don't know,
care, but they like
maybe you
the
got
conflict.
Yeah, so maybe you got like
pay
Nick,
attention.
like maybe we got like we got like
that would
Nick
be bad
Fuentes or
for
something.
other reasons,
Well,
Gibbs.
hey, okay, how about this?
But
Let me ask you this.
I'm
This
just
is a-
curious. What do
You're
you
supporting the bad
Question,
thing.
Forgive me.
But
Lactoid,
well, hold on. Who's
do we
talking
have to
about
care
bad?
only about conflicts, or like should we care about the good things? Like, should we care about the great things that happen in the world? Do we have a
Yes.
duty to care about the amazing accomplishments that mankind achieves all over the planet? Like, do I care? Like, let's say France goes to the moon. Do I have to care? Because,
I mean, France going to the moon.
Do I have a duty to care?
That's a bit. That's yeah. No, that's a good question. I don't really know if you. I don't know. I'm thinking if you do, it's not nearly to the same extent because it doesn't have the same ramifications that are very explicitly moral, right? Like people dying.
North Korea going to the moon.
People dying is like a big deal. Like that does matter from a moral perspective. You and I would agree. France going to the moon and people like being like celebrating that. I'm not sure that like really is like implicated. Yeah, I'm not sure that's really implicated on like in terms of our valuation of human life or our desire to stop suffering.
Well, what if a bad country goes to the moon? What if North Korea goes? Is that different?
Then that could be relevant if it raises their status in the world to an unacceptable level. If that allows them to do more evil stuff, that could matter. Sure. Again, am I expecting every single person to like have the bandwidth to dedicate their lives to know all about North Korea? No. But if I'm like, hey, by the way, dude, North Korea is doing this bad thing. If they flippantly say like, I don't care, like, no, that's bad. That's not good. Like, oh, that's awful. That's horrible. What should I avoid? What should I not do? That sucks. Human beings are important, right? The kind of empathy, human
right.
Human,
but I would
human
get that if
connection.
Someone
thing.
was talking about like their wife or kids that way. If somebody's talking about like a foreign country that way, like that's a little bit more normal to me. If someone was like, oh, like yeah, my wife like broke her leg, I don't give a shit. I'd be like, what the fuck? Like that's the weirdest fucking thing. Anyway, but anyways, go ahead.
But here's the thing though. This is. And I try to make this clear during my intro. You're right. Global conflicts involve other people, but they also involve us. 6 Americans just died in the Iranian conflict. That's a major world conflict. In fact, that was the very specific conflict you said you don't care about. So, I mean, this affects us. Can you defend that?
You got me there. Rest in peace. Like for real though.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's a good time.
That's a good time to attract the judges anyway. So yeah, good.
Is there I have a semi two-part question. Okay. I'd like to identify and define the people who should care. Number one, is there a specific age in which these citizens of the United States should start caring about geopolitics or world conflicts, so on and so forth? If so, how would you define that age, or is it a stage in life? Secondly, if you're not a tax-paying citizen, or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and your husband is the support of your household, should the mother care, or should she rely on her husband to be the caring person? Also, if you're not voting, and I think you tapped into the voting piece, I don't know if I got clarification on that. I could be wrong, but if you don't want to vote and or you can't vote, maybe you're federally locked out of voting for some reason. Um, uh, what would be the determinations for that? Should people who are in prison care? I'd like to really define who these people are that should 110% be caring or not caring about world conflicts.
Well, I wouldn't put an age. I wouldn't. There's no age that comes to mind for that. I mean, you got prodigies like Greta Thunberg. So like, it's whatever age that you come into it. Nobody laughed at that. That gives a little chuckle maybe. All right. Yeah, I wouldn't put an age on it. Like there are kids, and like I don't think you should vote at like 14. But if like this is what I'm saying, it's not a duty. Like if a kid that's 14 gets super into it, that's cool. That's a cool thing. Like if a kid gets into being a mechanic, that's cool. There's certainly like an industry and like a place for people interested in foreign politics, and they can make changes. And they work at the State Department, they work in local government, and all these other levels of government. I'm not saying like there's nobody that should care, but like to answer Sarah's question, like who should care and be like really on top of that? Obviously, the people in those positions of like power and decision making. So like obviously our elected representatives and like the people that are working with them and our president and our local government, and then obviously the voters should generally have an awareness. The issue I take with like creating a duty here is like there's a lot of voters that probably like shouldn't be voting. Like that like not every voter has access to, first they don't have like a full toolbox up here, and then second they don't have like they don't actually understand what they're sorting through. Like they're falling for fake stuff on their algorithm and stuff like that. And like I said, we don't have to identify those people, but those people do exist. So like the people that should care should be the voters that are, diligent, and like not every single person. Like the reason I'm making this decision is every single person is a voter, but like the people that actually vote and care are who I'm saying should care. I'd like to discourage people from voting personally, because if you're going to vote anyway, then you're a high quality voter. If I can convince you not to vote, I don't want you voting. You should not vote if I can convince you not to vote. If I can convince you not to vote, it's like if you come up and you like, hey, I'm thinking about, marrying my girl, I'd be like, no, dude. Because if I can talk you out of it, then she ain't the one, dog. You know what I mean? For real. If you marry her anyway, even though I said she for the streets and shit, she the one, bro. I don't know what to say. Go get her. It's kind of like voting. Votings are like women. That's my
okay.
That's my closer. I'm gonna end with that. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Specific age, should we care? I think as you get older, as you mature, your bandwidth for caring obviously increases. This is going to be different for every single person. I do agree with that. There's going to be people who are more capable. There's going to be people who maybe have different capabilities, right? And obviously, it's going to be a person-to-person judgment, which is again a very person-to-person bandwidth question. Your second question, the specific example that you asked about is what if you have, let's say, kind of a stereotypical housewife who doesn't work, but her husband works and she's still involved in the home. I think her having knowledge of this is obviously really important as well. Even if she's not directly paying taxes, the family unit as a whole is still paying taxes. I mean, she is still part of that family unit. Women of the house, like housewives, are responsible when that arrangement is the case for, I think, over 80% of all household purchases. Women vote. Women also, specifically housewives, we're talking about raising children, right? And instilling values and instilling education and knowledge into those children. In ways that perhaps the person who's out working is not able to do as directly. So no, I think that everybody still has a responsibility to care, not only for themselves, but also for, of course, their children and the community at large. And I want to again point out, like Pentuple, you just said there's some people who should care. The people who can,
Right.
and I agree. But
Right.
before you said that
They can.
even the people who can, they don't have
Don't have a duty. Right. Well, I mean, I feel like you like sort of conceded my point because when you make the case by case basis, saying like if the person has bandwidth, then it's not a duty. Now
Hold on.
you're making the case and saying like, okay, you're excused from this. How is it a duty if you're
'Cause you could-
excusing the people that aren't capable of doing
No,
it? Which is
you
what
can
my
al-
point is, that not everyone's like this can't be a duty. if
Duties are
only-
person to person specific. You can only expect people to have a duty if they have the capacity to fulfill that duty. I can't expect a worm to go,
Well,
stop a terrorist
Sure,
attack,
but I
right?
would of
Because
course
it's just not
agree that
capable
a
of.
representative has this duty. So we have to draw the line at who has this duty, and this is what Sarah was getting at.
Oh, they have
Who
a lot
has this
more of
duty
that
and who
duty.
doesn't?
Yeah.
Does the average normal voting person have this duty,
To minimally care, yeah, I think so. Yes.
regardless of bandwidth,
Um,
or like because we're making the analysis that if
Well,
if
no,
it's too
no.
much people, that's my position.
The
is saying,
minimal
like, for
amount-
some people it's too much.
The minimal amount should be based on their bandwidth. You're right. Somebody who's entirely brain dead, I would concede the brain dead person simply doesn't have a duty because they can't fulfill that duty, right? Duties are only on the people who can reasonably
Well, they can do
fulfill
about as
said
much as I
duty.
can, arguably.
Well, that's simply not true. That's simply not true.
Well, you know what I care about? Let's hear about
I-
the next judges had to say here. Let's go to the Heidi. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
All right. How about you, Mel?
I was wondering, so if you're morally obligated to care about these issues, are you also morally obligated to have discussions about these issues?
That's where I was getting, like, vocal versus informed. Which one is
Sure.
like being involved? That you're vocal about it, or that you're informed about it? Or
I think
Well-
that if it's within your capacity, if you feel comfortable and you feel confident that you can have the discussion, and you feel as though it'd be like good for the community, good for the world, then I would say yes. But if you don't, then I would say no. But that's still you caring, right? That's still you taking a neutral position, because you don't want to get it wrong. Why wouldn't you want to get it wrong? Because you care. You care about the outcome.
Right. But in some ways, isn't it like I literally could care about anything you conceived and put in front of me? So like you're basically saying I have to care about anything that's real that's like placed in front of me, like something on the other side of the planet. Like we're the only life in the universe. Like I have to care about these global conflicts. I don't know that there's horrible things happening outside of global conflicts that maybe we could in theory prevent, but it's just like when we define caring the way you're putting it, I feel like I can care about everything now because I can say that I think it's bad and that I wish somebody would do something about it, or I'll vote a certain way in result of this, or that I'll tweet something. Like anyone like that, if that's caring, like to me, caring is like
Caring is
having
anything
intimate
beyond saying I don't
connection
give a
with this.
shit, right? It's anything beyond saying like if I tell you 2 million children
Well, it's
died of
like,
malaria,
is
you
the
saying
outcome-
sucks
is-
for them.
Well, it's saying is the outcome of like what happens with the people in Gaza and whatever the like borders end up being. Like obviously the death is bad, but it's like, does it affect me where they decide that border is? Do I care where that border is? I care whether the people are dying or not, but like it makes total sense for me, for someone who's here who's maybe Israeli or who's Palestinian, for them to seriously care about where that border is placed. But for me, I don't.
No,
It doesn't matter,
I hear you,
'cause
but where
obviously you care about death, but-
where that
Well,
border is
let
placed.
me ask one question before I
Wait,
turn it over to y'all again.
real quick,
Go ahead.
please. Where that border is placed will affect how many people are killed. Like that's critically important in the history of the Middle East.
Well, that can be true. I don't know. That's a like.
I will
Well,
assert
hold
it's
on.
always
Listen,
true.
before you, but here, I'm going to touch on this real quick. Like, and since I needed to ask one, I'm going to ask one here. So, is it better to not care, or care about something in a bad way, or something in a way that's perceived as bad by many people? So, would it be better for me to be like,
what if evil?
yeah, but we didn't get this answer really. So, like, if say I'm like,
what
hey,
if
I want to
I
wipe
answered
out
it.
all. Yeah, but you kind of did. But would it be better to not care at all, or would it be better to care in a bad way?
Yeah,
Would
wouldn't it
to
be
care a bad
better
way?
for them to not care than
Okay,
to
no,
actually go out and be a serial killer?
Stop.
Lactoid?
No, stop.
And then
stop.
who decides?
Oh my God.
Who decides what's morally bad?
I think it can be it's perfectly consistent to say that you have a responsibility to care, and you also have a responsibility, which is separate and greater, I would even argue, to not intentionally pursue malicious ends. to be the villain,
Yeah,
to
but hold
try
on,
to
who does,
destroy
well, I
and
guess what I'm
hurt
asking you,
people. That
well,
is
hold on, I guess
bad.
what I'm asking you
That's
is,
bad.
but hold on, like, so
Yeah.
say, let's just
You
pick
don't have a
something
duty to
controversial.
prevent
Let's pick
bad.
controversial. Let's say I want to end Mideast peace, or solve Mideast peace, and I'm going to do this by,
You say
I don't
P.
know,
Diddy?
yeah, we're gonna let Suge Knight be in charge of the military and decide which groups are getting wiped out. Now it's gonna lead to Mideast peace, and there's gonna be no problems like going forward. But
I'm gonna go
the
grovel
goal
like
is
a
good.
lactoid and say, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention when Sugar Knight
Yeah,
took over the
which is
military."
better here?
No.
What is better in this situation if we're getting a happy goal towards
Yeah.
the end? But
So
maybe
no, it would be. I think it'd be worse for the again in any situation you give me. I would agree that it'd be worse for like the person who has like the malicious end goal. The problem wouldn't be them caring. In fact, like you could even phrase it. I wouldn't phrase it this way because I'd probably be running away from them. Anybody who thought this way. But the technically correct way would be like, well, it's good that you care, but it's really really bad that this is your take. That this is your position. The fact that you looked at the evidence, which is like what we all should be doing, that's good, and then you came to the conclusion of we should just kill them all. We should just do this terrible XYZ thing. That
Well, it's more
bad,
like
the magnitude of that bad outweighs any other good,
Well, it's also
even if
more
that's
like
so
when
good.
we were talking about the border thing, and you're saying there's consequences of where the border goes, right? There's obviously
Mhm.
positive consequences for either side depending on where it's placed. So now it's like I have a duty to care. How do I know which side to pick? Why do I have an like? Where does my obligation come to pick either side? Because I can obviously say I don't like people dying, but where does it say like I have an obligation to pick a
all right, I
side
got
at
like
some
5 more
point?
minutes of an open,
You,
and then we're
you
gonna be
can
closing. Go ahead.
you can care and also still be agnostic about a situation. You can look into a situation to whatever degree you're
What?
able to. Yeah,
Wait.
of course you can. So for example, you can look into a situation.
Oh, agnostic. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
So like
Sorry,
for example,
I'm just
like
retarded.
you're good. I've read like I think maybe not it's not my full sole focus, but like I've read a lot about the Iranian conflict. Sorry, the Israeli-Gaza conflict,
Well, you
and
had a duty
also
to,
the greater
so
Iranian conflict.
good thing you did.
Of course, I got the bandwidth. I should do it. Um,
Yeah.
but there are specific circumstances where I think it's a kind of like, well, who's the bad guy in this specific event? That's a tough call. I don't really know. Like I've looked into it. Both sides kind of did some shitty stuff. This is also true, for example, like when the Georgian Abkhazian conflict. That's kind of like that. There's a lot of back and forth there. It's like, well, who was really the bad guy there? The little kind of Game of Thrones kind of feel to it. Sure, I can agree there can be tough calls and tough situations, but it's still important when human life is on the line to care. I'm not demanding a position. I'm not demanding intervention. Like I said in my intro, I'm not demanding somebody take the position. We have to go do something.
Demanding I
We have to
listen.
intervene.
Waste my time.
Sometimes the position can be we shouldn't go do something, or I don't know if we should go do something. This is a really tough question. Those are all acceptable answers to me.
We have a
I have
duty
a
to pick any one of them. The duty is to have one, is what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. Like you
Sure.
could have one, you could not
Yes.
have one.
You have a duty to have something within your capacity as a citizen of not only America but the
Ultimately,
world. Yes.
So would it
to
be better
laser in
not
on
to
our
care if you
thing,
wanted to eat something evil there or not?
We're talking about capable people, whether they have a duty to care. I think that's the little scope of people. But let's go ahead.
Well, I mean, but that's obviously true. That's obviously true. Like, I don't expect like a creature that like my dog. I'm sorry. Like, obviously, it can care within its capacity. But come on, like I'm obviously talking about when I'm talking about caring, I'm talking about things like, hey, we're politically involved people. Hey, like what XYZ thing. Just categorically, I don't care about that. I don't care about when
Well, it's
people
like
die
we
over
care
there.
enough to have this
Let's go back to.
conversation
Well, I understand, which
to
is
debate this
a little bit
subject. Do we have a
self-refuting
duty to do this?
on you because you're here
I have
debating with me.
I have a separate question for each of you,
Yeah,
if
go for
you'll
it.
oblige. To Lactoid, you said in your opening statement on the basic philosophy in terms of you the individual, and mentioned there's like you said that it affects you. Therefore, that's part of your duty to that philosophy. Can you prove that these geopolitical or these worldwide conflicts do directly affect you in such a way where you should be informed on them?
Yes. So to clarify my opening a little bit, I laid out 4 different ethical positions, and then And then at the end I said, even if you reject philosophy and ethics and all of this, even if you want to approach things purely with a reptile brain, what is good for me only, I can still show you that you should still care, because it's still good for you. It's still relevant to you what happens with major world conflicts. And if we're talking about major world conflicts, I think that if we went through, like, I think each of the 15 or whatever that I estimated, maybe it's a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit less. If we're talking about major world conflicts, I am very confident that I'd be able to find for you specific effects that that conflict has had on you, whether it be increased gas prices, increased inflation, right? The war in Ukraine, major increased inflation, increased deficit or taxes, right? The amount of money that we give to Ukraine or Israel, that also affects. And then also geopolitical stability. You know, you can make the argument that we need to support Israel because perhaps they're important for our national security. Terrorist attacks within America, that risk that you have to live with when you go to the grocery store every day, or when you send your kids to school, that matters, right? All of these different things are influenced by global geopolitical conflicts. And I think that you can, I'm confident that I could, but I think most people really could draw some line between major current geopolitical conflicts and some effect on their own personal life. Yes.
I think what you're asked
and
for, nobody has the bandwidth to really do. Like, you have to care about everything along this like chain, as long as there's like something like bad or like remotely affecting you. I think you could probably tie everything happening in the world to everything else happening in the world in some
Probably, yeah.
ways.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm kind of
Um,
narrowing it to, like, I think it is reasonable within the bandwidth of most people, most American citizens, to like have a basic understanding of the major world conflicts and how they affect America. So like
right.
I
But
do
like
think that's reasonable.
you admitted that it's like influenced by the things that we do. Like don't you agree with my premise from earlier that if you have a representative for your district where you live, you would much rather hear them talk about making a change for your district than what they're going to do to help global affairs that might influence, vague economic numbers that your district, measures itself
Yeah,
on or something?
I would care. I'd prioritize most what that politician is able to do within their powers. If they're like a local city councilman, obviously it's going to be very important what they do, like within the city, which is not going to be particularly, as much of an effect on like global world conflicts. But if I ask them that question, what do you think about this conflict? And their response is just, I don't care. Like, this is a major red flag, right? This is a person who's running for
Is it a red
politics.
flag though?
This is a person who's running for politics who I think
Oh, well,
has a
right,
heightened
okay,
duty.
sorry,
I
Yes,
think
he
we should
has the
agree.
duty. He has
Yeah,
the
he has at least a
explicit
heightened.
duty.
I think everybody does, but he has a heightened duty, okay,
Yes.
to know about this.
Well, it's like,
And he's throwing up his
yeah.
arms and saying, I don't care. It's like, no, like you should at least like say, oh, like that's a very complex situation. Like I can see the argument on both sides, or
Me,
I think this is really bad.
Stan,
I had
you said you
What
had
if he
one more
just said,
question? Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
focused on
I
Let's
had
go,
one
bringing
more
Sam, for one more
To the
question here, and then we'll
problem.
go to
for
I'll answer. Go ahead.
Pentuple. You mentioned that AI would be hard to judge, right? Being
ruins
online.
everything.
You kind of threw a
Yeah.
little piece in there, but I didn't get too much of it. But wouldn't staying informed be a good, solid way to not be gullible to the fake AI because you're more exposed to it? I know there's a video floating around today where it's like there's a little kid, crying on a coffin with the American flag. Fake as fuck,
Right.
right?
Right.
We all knew this, but people still posted it, like major
Right.
influencers still posted it. I'm like, how are you not catching this? You could tell by the voice and the
Right.
this and the that, right? But wouldn't staying informed and staying updated on what is going on in the world would help determine the fake from the real, or the
Yeah.
AI from the,
It would. Yes, it would be advantageous to somebody who's into politics and keeping up with this stuff to approach it that way. But I would also say with the AI thing, I don't think any of us are perfectly impervious to AI. Like, every single person on the internet has seen something, whether it was just a tweet that came from like an AI account or something that they thought was genuine, that wasn't. That's just the nature of AI. We all see the obviously AI stuff and think like, oh, like everyone thinks, oh, I'm never fooled, right? I think that nobody has like a perfect ability to discern this, and it's only going to get worse. Even if you think, oh, well, I've never been fooled yet, it's like those days are coming, and I think we can see those days coming. So the issue isn't necessarily that like I don't think what you're saying is possible. I think you can be like very in tune and stuff. You're just inevitably going to see things that lead you in different directions because they're just going to come across your algorithm. It's going to be quick. You're going to sort of soak it in subconsciously, and then that's a fact that you've booked in, and then that's how we end up having 300 million voters with 300 million different opinions because like everyone's soaking in things differently, and it's not all consciously. And so when we're talking about like I think there's people that'll be better and worse at recognizing AI, right? Some people will be really, really good at it. That might be very, very hard to fool them. And then there's other people that are like, older, the, boomers that we call them, like that just think everything is real. So the issue I take with is I just don't think anybody's going to be impervious. So even if you wanted to, it's like you're going to have to weed through so much nonsense, and it's going to get harder and harder to tell what is real. So I think you just have to approach everything online with like sort of a hesitance, because the only real things in our lives are the things that are actually in front of us. Like that is where I think the person's caring has to start, because like we can agree maybe you have to care about all of it. Lactoid obviously cares that we also have to care about what's happening in our personal lives and home. I'm the only one who's necessarily like cutting off the spectrum. That's why I'm saying to me, he's saying we have to care about everything, where I'm saying like you care about like these things because you actually will get out of bed this morning to do something about it. Whereas like, am I going to get out of bed tomorrow to do something about something I can't do anything about? So that's sort of.
I'm fine with a hierarchy of caring. Just again.
Well, speaking of hierarchy, caring, you know what I care about? Closings. Pentuple, you're up first.
All right. Well, I think the most apt closing for this debate is just fuck them. Honestly, fuck them.
Didn't even need 3 minutes. You could have just quoted me on that one. That sounds like something I would have said. All right, kind of.
Nah, just fuck them, bro.
Yeah, 3 minutes, I guess.
Fuck them.
Yeah, look, that was bold. I do appreciate that. I think that there's some style points with that closing. I will agree. I guess I'll try to keep mine short too. I think that I'm fine with a hierarchy of caring. Never had a problem with that. I'm not. All I'm saying is that I think that it's fine to have power and privilege along with responsibility. I think it's fine. I think it's important to have that level of responsibility. And if you're an American citizen and you vote and you live here and you pay taxes and you work, I think that it is fine to expect certain things of you. I think it's fine to expect that people have a job. Maybe they not necessarily be a doctor, but to do something for the community within their bandwidth, to do something that yes, that they enjoy. But if what they enjoy is really bad for the community, right? If they enjoy being a thief, no, I'm sorry that if your dream is to be a mobster, that's not good for the rest of humanity. That's not good for the community. There are certain lines here. There's limits. You can't hurt people. You can't do stuff like that. There is an expectation on you that you contribute to society to some degree. And so all I'm asking really is that people have some minimal amount of caring about major events that cause thousands and historically millions of people to die and suffer. And I think that maybe if people cared and put in a little bit of effort to learn about those conflicts to the extent that they're able. Again, I understand people are busy, people have jobs, I get it. But to the extent that they're able, maybe we can just do that little bit better at avoiding these horrible outcomes. So that's my closing.
Yeah,
very nice. All right, judges, y'all can talk amongst yourselves. You can message each other, I guess. I don't know. I saw that message now. Y'all just send me the who y'all won here in the background. I'm surprised that no one hit us with the people that care about everything actually care about nothing. And I feel like that was a missed opportunity. Pentuple missed that one. Failed.
What?
But lizard brain. Huh? I like the lizard brains. We need more.
Yeah, he came at me, bro. He came at me swinging. Oh my god, I'm gonna go to bed tonight thinking about that.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know. Just real clear, I didn't know which position you were coming with, so I was just knocking them out. And at the end, I was like, if he comes with the lizard brain one, I'm gonna be prepared for that.
Dude, I'm favorable to the.
I mean, the vote local thing I think is a big one. I feel like we go on these.
Concern itself with beyond the immediate surrounding. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we go on these like panels all the time, right? And like, I can't even tell you how many times we like talk about local issues, and people just like look at you like they're fucking got two brain cells and they're gasping for air because they just don't care about local. And I'm like, do y'all leave Mama's basement like ever? Like maybe y'all should,
People should care
and then
about
y'all
local
can know
issues.
what's happening in the world. And they don't, and they don't. It's crazy. I feel like nobody cares about local issues. I'm just waiting on one person's, two
Hold on.
people's,
I'm
one
gonna pull
person's,
it. Just mine? You're just waiting on mine?
just you.
Okay. All right. All right.
So
Just
no
you.
pressure, but you know.
All right.
You
All
might
right.
be a deciding vote. Who knows?
All right.
You
All
might be a
right.
deciding vote. Who knows? Who knows? Dogs are more powerful than the dragon. Than the dragon? What the fuck are you talking about, Frosty? And what weed are you smoking? Because I need some of that. I don't know, but these are good questions. So the winner here will take her first L, which is to be sad for somebody. The loser here
No
will take the
pressure.
first L. Not the winner won't take an L, and they'll move on to the finals, and then they will get a fancy ring or something whenever at the end that we had paid for. And then Lactoid, like he said, he already won our invitational. His name's going on a cool trophy that we're gonna have, the Skiz Tech Memorial Trophy. We love Skiz around here, and that's gonna be exciting. We'll be debuting that at the beginning of the invitational. We'll have a nice little reward ceremony or something. And by reward ceremony, it's going to be me going, "Hey, look, we got his fucking name on this bitch. Congratulations to him." But yeah, do we have everybody? Did you send yours to me, Mel?
Mm.
All right, bet. Okay, so all right, let's start with hi Anita. Who won and why?
I have to say Lactoid, just because he had a very he explained himself in depth, and he had went over about duties and ethics. He was very persuasive, and I did like that about that.
Let's go to
Not
Sarah.
over.
This was actually a really good debate. Oh, am I mute? No, I'm not muted on this end. I'm muted on my other end. Sorry. This was actually a really good debate. I enjoyed hearing both sides of it. And for clarification, I came into this obviously Lactoid. You are the affirmative yes. Pentuple, you are the affirmative no. So my focus was more on Lactoid and where he was going with his argument and why, because it's still an affirmative yes. Pentuple basically just has to say no, right? And kind of like dismantle your stuff. But my biggest piece was the at what age? How do you identify a person? And the reason why Lactoid is because when you are going to establish a duty to a person, I need an identification. Now, you could give me some process of elimination, but you couldn't clarify who should or should not be under that moral obligation, which scares the shit out of me. I don't like that. So I actually handed it to Pentuple for this one only because there was no identification of that duty and who it belongs to and why.
I got 1-1. Going into the final, no pressure. Mel, who won and why?
All right. So I gave my vote. Both of you guys argued your points very well, I will say. I did have a little bit of difficulty deciding, but I had to kind of go through my notes and everything. And I went with Pentuple. I think you argued your point really well, Lactoid. I think I mean I even agree. Like yes, like we do have an obligation as humans to care, and I wish you had kind of touched on that a bit because towards the end of the debate, it felt like you were more so agreeing with Pentuple's point, where like yes, you can care if it is within your bandwidth, not just everybody having the moral obligation to care because they're human or that we or whatever.
I'm going to wager that this quote right here is why Lactoid lost, and I'm sharing with the screen. If I had to
Fuck 'em.
wager, this is because
Fuck
fuck 'em.
The fuck 'em quote.
James? Wait, I need to see this.
Why? Yeah, that's if I had to wager, I think that's the one that got it. Like that's
Fuck
pretty
'em.
even until because fuck 'em.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, but yeah, I was good. That was good. So, Pentuple, I
Good
know you're
suspense on the
excited.
reveal. You always crush
to
that,
continue
Gibbs.
on.
You always crush the
Yeah, we
reveal.
got to get the reveals going. We got to get now. You got to go face Fabian in the finals of the regular season,
Oh god.
and
I
we'll be
will
back for the
say,
Grand Prix after that.
Pentuple, like you were riding that line dangerously close. It was
That's
more
fine,
like
that's how I like to
by
be.
it was more by default because of that lack of establishing who the duty goes to.
Strongest 4-0.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
because you
negative
guys
always
were
was the
both
easier
almost
time.
arguing for each other's points at
Yeah.
one point, and so
Yeah.
it was very close.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for the style matchup of Fabian and Pentuple here. That's going to be very serious
Right, yeah,
debate.
it's a
I
rematch
can
from the
already tell.
GridCon. It's a rematch from GridCon. When you
Yeah,
set
yeah,
me up for a
GridCon.
debate and didn't tell me, by the way.
I've never once done that in my life.
You know,
I would never do that.
you ever had a debate and you ever hosted a debate, Sarah, and then you just like didn't mention that one of the debaters was debating?
I just get what
Never
said that.
told the
Lactoid, are you
debater.
gonna be streaming
Isn't
for
that
a
like
while?
weird? Almost like how does that
I'm
debater
not.
even know to
I'm
go?
gonna be honest.
Okay.
It's almost like
Well,
it was
we're
one
gonna
show
raid.
you showed up because I didn't know I had to be there. I was
Yeah,
just there to hang out and have fun.
I would never draft somebody into my shenanigans ever.
It was so funny. I actually thought you were fucking with me. I thought you were all fucking.
Yeah,
with
I know
me.
you did. I had to fucking
'Cause
send
I
you
was
down
like,
there.
no,
To
I
talk
just
to
came to
Grid.
have food. I'm not debating.
Never would do that. All right, no, we're gonna raid Modi because he's being interviewed by Grid. So that's what we're gonna do now. For the rest of y'all, y'all be good. Thanks so much.
Peace out.
All right.
Great
peace,
times.
homies.
Appreciate it. See you on the final soon.
Never
Next
talk
week
to
we
me
start
again,
dual streaming because we're
Hadena.
monetized.
I'm just kidding.
A lot of rage. All right, y'all be good.
All right. Peace. Peace.
Thank you so much.
Deuces.
What are you about to do, Gibbs?
Game. It's game time.
It's game time.
It is game time, bro. We gotta switch headsets.
Well, Modi's
Yeah,
got
you
Ah. Let's see. How did that happen? My first DCS loss. Yeah. I think it was just style points, man. I thought I won. I thought I explained every point. I thought I refuted every point, but I mean, Pentuple had that. Pentuple had that fucking style. Fuck him. That was good. It was good. No, I'm serious. It was impressive. Um, yeah. I still got a trophy though, either way. So I still won the first one. That's the most important one, right? I still won the first trophy. Um, and I don't know what I get for that, but I said I was gonna get a T-shirt, or Gibbs said I was gonna get a T-shirt at some point about that. So, alrighty. So we are going to. We're gonna raid on out as well. We're gonna raid into the winner. We're gonna raid into Pentuple. I don't know if he's gonna be on for a while longer, but. And I will catch you guys on the flip. Peace. Oh shit, hold on. He had the style, man. You gotta give it to him.
If it's inevitable, why should we be upset about it? Fabian is gonna be like, "Fuck, Pentuple, really?"